This was an interesting story that I came across. But before we get into the story itself, I want to kick it off by watching this Richard Wolff situation, because I feel like he explains the whole inflation, situation, and how the ruling class is using it to basically divide the working class, to upset the class solidarity, which honestly in America is not a hard thing to do. Because you give an American, some modem of what's the word I'm looking for? Class mobility. Not even class mobility. You give them scraps, and they'll treat it like it's the best thing in the world. So it's I'll say it's very easy to cause Americans to turn against their own class. I'll say that. And I'm not saying that to shit on the American people. I'm saying that because that's something that needs to change. But we're gonna go ahead and watch this Professor Wolff video, and then we'll get into the article that I got prepared. So,
biggest mistakes cultivated in our culture by very important special interests is the notion that there's some unique relationship between the amount of money in circulation and prices. Let me be clear with you. There isn't. There's no necessity that prices go up. Let me give you the simplest example I know of. Let's imagine that the money supply is increased. The Federal Reserve increases the money supply. And let's assume, just to make the story simple, it goes into the hands of the bank. Or if you don't like that, let me imagine with you that helicopters fly over the American cities and drop the money, and we all run out with baskets and collect the bills floating down. Okay, now there's a lot more money in the economy. And you know who knows this? Business. They know that the public has more money to spend because they know what the Federal Reserve is doing, whether it's increasing the money supply or not. And at this point, the employer makes a decision. The manufacturer, the company that sells any service, they know people have more money to spend. So here's what they decide. Either the way you deal with that is to raise your price. Why? Because people have more money to spend, and so you can reasonably expect to get the higher price. Or, here comes the key issue, folks, or you can decide that the way you want to respond to the extra money in the economy is by ordering more goods to sell for that extra money. The second one gives people jobs making the extra goods, and we tend to like that. But the first one, jacking up the price, that's not getting anybody a new job. That's just getting the seller more because there's more money in the economy.
so that in my mind, and let me know if I'm tripping. That in my mind would solve the job crisis that we're in right now, because more money that people have, if you're ordering more, more products because of the demand, because people have more money, um wouldn't that be able to afford people better jobs? Like, if you're creating more jobs, you can afford to pay these workers at better wages. That would also bring an incentivize manufacturing to come back to America, if that was the case. I wonder why. So basically, it's a quick easy fix, and it's more profitable for them to do the first solution, or the latter solution, with which Professor Wolff was talking about there, where they're going to just raise the prices to gain more money and keep all that profit, instead of trying to stimulate the American economy as a whole, because that is what capitalism does, and that's what he's going to continue explaining here.
Why am I stressing this? The answer is simple. Employees, the vast majority of us, we don't set prices. But employers, a tiny minority of us, they do. They're the ones who decide what price gets put on that tag connected to the software program, the haircut, the hamburger, or anything else we buy. It's a decision of employers that is the cause of every inflation. Employers set the price. Make sure you understand that that's how a capitalist economy works. The employees have nothing to say. The government, in most cases, has little or nothing to say. It's an employer prerogative, and they hold on to it. But it has its problems. And here we go to understand the difference between the reality and what you're reading in the newspapers or watching on TV. When employers raise prices, they do it for the same reason they do everything else. They want to make more profits. That's what they're in business to do. That's what they got their MBA at business school for being good at, getting more profits. And if you can charge more for whatever it is you sell, bingo, you're on your way to higher profits. The problem is it doesn't look good. To whom? To the vast majority of us, the employees, because we've got to spend more.
So what are they gonna do? They're going to manipulate the masses and implement their classic tool of class division. And they're going to use this by turning you against not even your neighbor, but the poor and most vulnerable amongst us. So this, every time inflation comes up, it's always especially now, it's always in conjunction with the $600, altogether, I think it was, how much was it? $2,000? Because we got the 600 from Trump. Then we got the 1,400 from Biden. So yeah, the combined $2,000, because remember, Trump gave 400 plus the employment benefits and all that. But they gave you the fuck you checks, and then they gave upwards of $14 trillion to the corporations and richest people in the country. But all I ever hear, we're not talking about the 14 trillion they gave to the corporations and the billionaires and the wealthy. We're shitting on the poor, the unemployed, the people who the quote unquote frontline workers that we were celebrating. Yeah, I hear people shitting on them. And this isn't to attack the other Americans. This is to say, yo, we need to be sticking together right now. They've declared war on the working class, on all of us. So right now, we need class solidarity more than ever. And I'm not seeing that. I'm really not seeing that. With everything politically going on, I'm seeing class divisions more than ever. I'm seeing us divided by race. The Kyle Rittenhouse shit. I see it's divided by, sex and gender with the whole Dave Chappelle thing and, the war of the genders and all that. On both sides. That's not me blaming one side or the other, on both sides. Because both sides done lost their damn minds when it comes to that shit. It's just like you see Americans at each other's throats about everything. Everything. Only thing really football too. I was about to say football. Because the goddamn like a Cowboys and the Eagles fan in a room by themselves, man. That's going to be an ugly sight when you open that door. But all jokes aside, and fuck the NFL, but all jokes aside, right now we need class solidarity more than ever. But it's like I said, it's very easy to divide Americans and turn them against each other. And I hate the conversation on how it's always placed on like the left or the woke, the woke folk and everything like that. Cause it's like, oh, you allow them to divide us by race. We're all the same, this, that, and but it's like, nah, y'all divide based upon amongst class. You shit on the poor all the time. You'll get a lot of conservatives that will also shit, not necessarily shit on minorities, but have these ignorant stances on minorities. And, it's very pick and choose, like they'll shit on Kamala Harris for locking all these, rightfully so, for locking black men up, but then cheer on Donald Trump when he's talking about law and order. And we need more prisons and more police when he's preaching that shit. That's the I like to bring up those logical fallacies, because there are real issues that that are between, you know, races and genders and things and shit like that that need to be acknowledged for sure. I'm not trying to downplay anybody's struggle or anything like that. What I'm trying to say is right now, though, right now, we need class solidarity, but that goes both ways, B. That goes both ways. And I'm just not seeing that in America right now. And I feel like that's what Professor Wolf here is talking about. And the article is going to back up what he's saying right now as well.
Our employers long ago learned when you raise your prices to make more profits, never say that's why you're doing it. Always come up with a story, preferably a plausible BS that will get people to grudgingly accept your higher price rather than saying, gee, you're gouging me.
Or give them a scapegoat.
You're ripping me off. This is not about government printing money. It's not about any of the things you hear. It's what you're not supposed to hear that's the key issue here. Profit-driven price increases you and I have to pay so that the employer makes sure that this capitalist system works for them. And for us, we get to watch headlines that tell us nonsense.
Like Kyle Rittenhouse. And all the other nonsense in the fucking media right now. And fucking the conservative media are going to be talking about fucking Cardi B wearing, I don't know, or Lil Nas X or whatever, you know, dumbass shit they trying to throw in our faces. Will and Jada. Oh man, Will and Jada. That's the worst. That's sad to see. I'm like, oligarch crossed the line with that, bro. Oh my God. Oh, all right, I gotta go with this Will and Jada joke a little bit more. Good God, man. Good God. I'd rather see more of the trans community attacking Dave Chappelle than see Jada Pinkett Smith continue to assault Will Smith's masculinity. Like Jesus Christ. And I think Dave Chappelle would take one for the culture, bro. Dave Chappelle would take one for us, man. Cause goddamn, man. Goddamn. Will. And I'm not even the biggest Will Smith fan. I know I'm completely off topic right now. But since I said that, like I'm just sitting here like, damn, they really be doing Will Smith dirty, bro. But regardless, you know, I'm gonna get back on topic. I'm sorry, y'all. But man, yeah, but everything Professor Wolf said there was 100% factual, man. And this article that I have for y'all today, not even kind of, backs up everything that man just said. So let's go ahead and get into that, John. I'm about to pull it over right now. So clip this John out. I'll this one clippings and everything. When the live stream is done, I'm gonna have all the articles linked down below. I'm gonna start doing that before the show starts. Actually, I'll get all the links so y'all could click through it and read through it while you're listening to me or whatever y'all want to do. However y'all want to do it, you feel me? But for now, it's gonna be in the description after the live stream is over. And probably starting Monday. So I'm gonna do a live stream on Monday. What I'm gonna do is, so I'm gonna live stream, but I'm gonna take it down immediately after, and then I'm gonna clip it, and then I'll post the clips like that night, and then Wednesday, and then Friday I'll do the live stream, clip it, post those clips on Monday. So y'all will be getting that. But starting Monday, like the stream's gonna come down. Probably like I'll let it stay up for about an hour. Then I'm gonna start clipping it. So just be wary of that. And then I'll post it back up and everything later after the clippings drop. But for now, that's my plan. But yeah, so here we go into this article. Corporations are using inflation as an excuse to raise prices and make fatter profits. Now, this is from Business Insider as well. So this is Business Insider. I wouldn't, call them a Marxian publication, but Robert Kiyosaki probably would, right? Been watching a lot of videos about him just going off about like, how communistic our institutions are and everything. Now, I'll agree. I feel like the institutions definitely harp on identity politics and these these woke, the quote unquote woke terms and woke ideology that they preach. Like basically the Democratic Party's plan of pushing identity politics is what these college campuses are teaching. But when you look at a lot of these, college people that come in, that come out of these colleges, sure, they have these woke identity politics ideas, but they all believe in the same capitalist bullshit. Yo, and the ones that don't get tricked into it because they think the Green New Deal is somehow not the corporate Green New Deal. You feel me? They think Medicare for all isn't going to be a way to take your civil liberties away and steal your biomedical data. Facebook is a private entity, so they can do whatever those fuckers. Yo. So people like Robert Kiyosaki and motherfuckers like that, they hate liberals, and I wouldn't, and he probably does, his parents are teachers. He said they're communists, God bless him, whatever he feels. Robert Kiyosaki, he's an American. He has the right to feel whatever he wants to, but I have the right to say you sound stupid as shit, bro. But yeah, it's just crazy to hear that shit, because it's like motherfuckers like that creates, that disrupts the class solidarity we need right now. But this is from Business Insider. I wouldn't call them a Marxian publication. I wouldn't call them a socialist publication. But Dominic Reuter wrote this, and Andy Cares. So let's go ahead and get into this, John. Large companies tend to use periods of rising inflation to boost their profit margins. Sounds a lot like what Professor Wolf was saying. You would think that is this Professor Wolf's Marxian magazine? Oh no, this, like I said, this is Business Insider. Having few competitors in an industry makes it even easier for companies to raise prices. The current inflation rate is a symptom of corporate consolidation, Robert Reich says. Now, Robert Reich is a fucking... We know he's a shit lib, but he's right when he talks about some of the economic issues. The problem is that his solution to this is to keep voting for the Democrats that keep urging this system on. To keep voting for the Bill Clintons who he served under as, what was he under Clinton? I forgot what he served as under Clinton. And they drummed his ass out because he was getting annoying. He wasn't upsetting their agenda. They just found him annoying. Hold on, I'm looking up with Secretary of Labor. Yeah. So, but consumer prices are going up, but corporate profits are rising even faster. Walmart, which announced third quarter financial results this morning, was able to post better than expected earnings, in part by offering fewer discounts to shoppers. But a lot of large firms have spent their recent quarterly calls bragging to investors about their ability to hike prices with relative impunity. Corporations have a tendency to try and boost profit margins during periods of elevated inflation, the Wall Street Journal reported, and now is no different. Roughly 2/3 of the largest publicly traded U.S. companies have reported better profits this year than the same period in 2019, the Wall Street Journal found, citing FactSet data. Nearly 100 of those were performing at least 50% better this year than in 2019. Former U.S. Labor Secretary Robert Reich called this phenomenon a symptom of the economic concentration of the American economy in the hands of a relative few corporate giants with the power to raise prices. Sounds a lot like what Professor Wolf was saying. Inflation may be a problem for consumers, but the bigger issue is a lack of competition, Reich said. Corporations are using the excuse of inflation to raise prices and make fatter profits. And at the same time, paying off your media, as I covered in that Bill Gates story I did, paying off your media to turn you against your neighbor. So they're turning you against your neighbor with, the blank, the COVID narrative. They're turning you against your neighbor with that narrative. But what a lot of Americans fail to realize or don't want to realize or willfully accept and drink up from the media is when they shit on the poor. is when they shit on the working class. You know, it's not inflation is not you know, your poor neighbor who lost his job is not to blame for inflation. I don't get how like people have this cognitive dissonance when it comes, like, they'll align with the billionaire class and the elite class, you know, when it comes to protecting their own and that's, I guess that's a product of capitalism. I guess that could be chalked up as a product of capitalism, because in my opinion, when you get into the notion of blaming the poor, you feel me, for the country's problems, that's scapegoating to me. And that's the worst type of scapegoating, because that's the scapegoating of your own fucking people, your fellow American. So it seems like you want to be American when you want people, you know, you want people to shut up and just go along with what you want. That's what it sounds like to me. That's not the America, you know, I want to be a part of personally. So American industries have gotten dramatically more concentrated in recent decades, diminishing the number of market competitors and increasing corporate price-taking power. So this is in a sense a corporate capture of our country, which we already know that we're in. But it's funny, like, again, you'll get a lot of people that will say, you know, we're like Robert Kiyosaki, the Candace Owenses of the world, that we're going into, you know, this communist fashion, you know, this communist direction with the country, blah, blah, blah. I would say maybe a techno-fascist direction with a little bit of military authoritarianism sprinkled in there. But this has all been a product of capitalism. This is what they're describing in this article. It's not communism. This is capitalism. And it is scary. It's scary. But like reacting, like making it a left versus right, communist versus, you know, communist, making it even communist versus capitalist thing, like, it doesn't solve the solutions that we need. Like, that's why I try not to identify, I try not to make it a left versus right thing. And that's why I personally don't identify with right, left, whatever the fuck it is. Although I do like to say, you know, a lot of my ideologies do, like, I'm a firm believer that I feel education should be free, housing should be free, food, the basics you need to survive should, like, there shouldn't be a price tag on a healthcare, things like that. Shouldn't be a price tag on those types of things. So, but I don't like to identify as any of those things, because I feel like we get caught in this fucking what's the fucking the wheel that the rabbit runs on? I guess the rabbit wheel or the hamster wheel. We get caught in this hamster wheel, you feel me? And it's like of left versus right bullshit. Like I said, I know I keep bringing it up, but you see with the Kyle Rittenhouse situation and all that. And it sucks because I have to point it out sometimes, because just as much as I point out the cognitive dissonance, just as much as I point out the fuckery, the bullshit with the Democratic Party and leftists, I'm going to point it out with conservatives and right-leaning folk too. And I feel like that has to be done, because people need to realize that we need to come together. Come together. And bullshit needs to be called out, in my opinion, for that to happen. So, and the reason why I'm covering this story is in the same way why you see people like Jimmy and me and Franco and different people speaking out against, the jab narrative. And that's because they're trying to use it to divide just as much as they're using the economic narrative to divide. Just as much they're using that narrative to make you mad at the most vulnerable people in our society. It's just insane to me. Like, you saw it with fucking Anna Kasparian, like, going off on fucking homeless people. I remember that one of the earliest videos I did was Tucker Carlson did this segment, and Fox News did this segment going off on homeless people too. Like, what the fuck? It's just, it's insane to me. But continuing with the story, corporate pre-tax profits as a share of total U.S. output has also reached a multi-year high of 13.5% in the second quarter, which means that companies are taking an even larger slice of the economic pie, and that number is trending higher. So not only are they getting over on you with raising the prices, but remember that $14 trillion that they made off with in these stimulus packages. That's that's you too, bro. Oh yeah, they gonna cover that too. All right, yeah, bye. They and oh look, Kyle Rittenhouse, and they running out the back door with all that shit. Oh look, homeless guy running out the back door. For example, consumer goods giants Unilever, Procter and Gamble, and Colgate Palmolive, whatever, have remarkably similar portfolios of brands selling similar products, and each reported improved profits from higher pricing in the third quarter. Coca-Cola and PepsiCo also rolled out price increases around the same time, so they're gouging you, like Professor Wolf said, and then they're paying off the media to turn you against the most vulnerable people in our society, like the homeless, like the jobless. Input costs are indeed making it more expensive for businesses to provide goods and services. But the healthy profits that companies are taking in show that they're doing just fine as consumers increasingly see their buying power evaporate. The remedy, Reich says, is not a higher interest rate from the Federal Reserve, which would likely slow down the economic recovery. This structural problem is amendable to only one thing: the aggressive use of antitrust law. And that I 100% agree with. So there is more to that story. That's just, I cut out the things that I thought was important and relevant. But like I said, I will link it down below. And I found that interesting because, again, like, just as much as you don't want, people to, turn against their neighbors over the jab and things like that, like like the poorest among, and then like the Christian right too. Like, this is my beef with the Christian right, with a lot of the Christian right, because I feel like there are some good Christian right folk out there that have their head on their shoulders and everything, although I'm not a religious person, as a lot of y'all know. But this, like, narrative that, like, Christ was this big capitalist, like, and it's like, yo, like, fuck the poor, it's their fault, blah, 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 this, that, and like, I'm pretty sure that's not, like, that wasn't Jesus's narrative, man. Like, I'm pretty sure if that nigga was even real, I'm pretty sure that wasn't how he felt about things. Simmer down there a little. But yeah, I just, like, it's weird to see that, because it's like I said, I don't want people turning on their neighbors, blaming the the people who have not received the jab for things, for the spread, just as much as I don't want poor homeless people and jobless people being blamed for some shit that's being induced by corporations, by the powerful, the people in charge, the billionaire class and the multimillionaire class. Just very, like, that doesn't help the situation. Cracking down on poor people doesn't help the situation. And especially, like, when the whole, like, unemployment benefits was going down and everything, and you saw people cheering on Biden. There was some leftists, liberals cheering on Biden cutting the unemployment benefits, and then obviously a lot of most conservatives were, because they think most Americans are lazy, which statistically is just untrue. Statistically, that's untrue. But it's a sad situation to see, man. And that's just the overall statement on where the labor movement is in this country as well. Even with all these strikes going down and things like that, we still have a very weak labor movement in this country. Our labor movements here are weak sauce, bro. I'm gonna start doing more research on what the labor movements like in Europe and things like that are like. So, and other parts of the world, like Asia, China and different places like that, Latin America. I gotta start doing more research on that. But what is our next story? Let's go into our next story. Give me 1 second to set this story up. I just got to set up one thing. It's not going to take too long. I hope y'all like that first story, though. I thought it was very interesting.